Hello everybody, this is Jason Heires, and I'm doing a minor rebranding of this, but this is just going to be called My Album Reviews. We'll just say this is review number 1, but this still will tie in with all the other reviews I've done up to this point. I just am tired of distinguishing between if it's a classic album, a newer album, or whatever. I'm just going to review whatever I want. So this is just a My Album Review. Now today the particular album I'm reviewing is by The Police, and it's their last album. It's called Synchronicity, and here's the album cover. Alrighty, got a good look at that. So this was recorded in 1983, and The Police, as you know or may not know, is a three-person band. Of course, everybody knows Sting. Sting is really famous, had a famous solo career after being in The Police. So, you know, there's very few people that don't know who Sting is. He's a bass player and a singer. He's had a string of big hits. Even not that long ago, he released like a best of with, with the Police songs and his solo career songs. And Sting is the primary songwriter and the lead singer for the Police. So, in a lot of ways, Sting is probably the most important member of the Police. However, Sting is not the only member of the Police, and there's some other guys that we should talk about real quick. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the drummer, Stewart Copeland. And Stewart Copeland is, after the Police broke up, has basically been working a lot on doing like soundtracks and films and things like that. Now, actually, I thought he did a lot more than what he found, but I did find that he did soundtracks for like Highlander 2 and She's All That, and even the old Equalizer TV show. Not the new movie with Denzel Washington, but the original show with, I think it was Edward Woodward, who was the old British Secret Service guy, which was much cooler, by the way. And then there's also Andy Summers, who's the guitar player. And Andy Summers has continued his career as a jazz musician. His most recent album was released in 2017, so he's still pretty active. So this band really had some really good chemistry, and the thing that I really liked about specifically Andy Summers was that he added a dark angularity to the to Prince's melodies that gave it a nice counterbalance. Sting on his own is almost a little bit too poppy and cheery, but with the dark kind of weird chords and the things that Andy Summer does to provide that little counterbalance to that, I think it really works well. And that's why I think the Police were such a great band, is there was some really good chemistry there. Not only that, but Stewart Copeland also is a really darn good drummer as well. So there's just a really good band. And this album has some of the Police's biggest hits of all time. Obviously, the one that we need to talk about the first was the monster hit called Every Breath You Take. The much misunderstood Every Breath You Take, because a lot of people think it's a romantic song when it's clearly about a stalker. And even Sting has admitted that in multiple reviews over the years. Another couple of really big hits were King of Pain and Wrapped Around Your Finger, and these are all lined up right at the beginning of what would have been side 2 of the album, the record, or the cassette tape back in this day, and they're just back to back to back. So you have, Every Breath You Take, followed by King of Pain, followed by, Wrapped Around Your Finger. That's a pretty big powerhouse of 3 songs to show up in an album in a row. Some other really noticeable songs on this, or noteworthy songs, is Synchronicity, the title track. There's 2 different Synchronicities. There's the first one, which actually does have Synchronicity on it. I know you, you know me, da da da, Synchronicity. And then there's the second Synchronicity, which is a lot better, that ends what would be either the first side of the record or the first side of the cassette, which is Synchronicity Volume 2, which kind of makes an allusion to the father getting ready to kind of go into a homicidal rage, turning into the Loch Ness Monster or something along those lines. But those two songs are really good. One thing, though, that you kind of discover about the Police when you go through their discography, and I know some people are going to strongly disagree with that, but in my opinion, the hit songs are great, but a lot of the other songs that are not the hit songs that show up on their albums are kind of weak or misses or just kind of oddball tracks. And there's a couple of examples of this on this album too. So there's Mother, which is kind of funny, but it's, you know, it's kind of a goofy song, you know. Every girl I go out with becomes my mother in the end. You know, it's I get the concept of it. It's kind of a funny joke, but it's also kind of, you know, it's not really a serious track. You know, it's just kind of there. Tea in the Sahara is kind of okay, but it's not anything special. And then Murder by Numbers is a pretty weird little track too. I mean, they're not horrible tracks, but they're examples of tracks that are quite frequent on Police albums that are just kind of there, and they're not really anything worth paying that much attention to. So I don't know why that is exactly, but that's kind of the way they work. So to me, this is the only real Police album in of itself that's really worth having. Otherwise, I would just stick to the greatest hits, which is the Every Breath You Take, the singles, and that pretty much covers everything you really need for the Police for the most part. I think that's going to wrap up this review for today. I always appreciate you paying attention to these reviews. Leave a comment if you have one. I thank you very much.